Good afternoon, evening, afternoon, wherever you're at. This is Benjamin Hadfield. I'm with Teach Me to Dive. I'm a technical diving instructor in Idaho and Florida, and do a lot of fun teaching. And people always ask, technical diving in Idaho? Yes, that is a thing. We go out, we get cold, we get in dry suits, we have heated. It's all kinds of fun. 130, 140 feet in the lakes here. It gets amazing, beautiful clarity, but that's not what we're here. We're here to talk to Terri Lynn. Terri Lynn is the founder and runner of Scuba Girls International, as well as Scuba Girls in Georgia as well. And Terri Lynn is as she describes it, a baby cave diver. But I'm telling you, cave diver, there's no such thing as baby. If you're a cave diver, you're a cave diver. You are a Billy badass, in my opinion. So, and also associated with our good friend Woody Alprin, who was on one of his podcasts, and I believe number 7, if memory serves correctly, as well. So Terri Lynn's amazing. She's got a lot of great experience, and I really wanted to talk to her today because she's really got a fantastic story and just a real inspiration for the rest of us. Not only the fact that she's a diver, she's a technical diver, and she's a CCR diver, and she's a cave diver. And I think in some of this, she's a she. And it goes to show that we need to bring more amazing women like Terri into the industry, because we need that influence to make the rest of us idiot middle-aged white guys better. And stronger and better divers, because they are truthfully better divers than us. Let's just call it fact. Terri, thanks for being on today.
Benjamin, you're going to make me blush with that kind of intro. Wow.
The $5 is due later.
Okay, got it.
Well, Terri, we'll just jump into it. How did you get started diving?
Well, way back in 2016, my husband and I had been married about a year. We finally decided to go on our honeymoon, and he took me to the Bahamas. We were going to go enjoy ourselves and enjoy the beach. He'd been diving since he was about 17 years old, and he used to be a lifeguard. And of course, being a lifeguard, you end up with pool duty. So someone once told him, that cleaning the pool would be much easier if you were to just don a tank and then take the brush in the tank and get it done faster. So he had been diving since he was 17. I was always interested. I definitely a water baby, grew up on the Chesapeake Bay. My stepdad taught me how to swim by tossing me overboard on the boat one day. And by the end of that summer, I was jumping off the flying bridge of the boat. So I've always been a water baby. And on our honeymoon, we had a notion. He's like, let's just go try. Let's see if you like it. And we do the resort course in the pool, totally calm, cool, and collected. This is kind of weird, but let's do it. I'm excited. We get into the water out in the ocean, and what I didn't know is that my weight pockets had holes in them. So my weights did not stay in my BC when we were trying to descend. I had issues getting down. I couldn't stay down. The dive master at the time didn't really have, I don't want to say she didn't have a clue, but she did not take the time to figure out that we were not having an easy time solving my issue. Her idea to solve the problem was to jump on my back, push me down, and then just ride me the entire time. Now, had I known at that time that that was not the appropriate thing to do, I would have called the dive, and that had been it. But I went along with it. She rode me the entire dive. And by the time the dive was over, I'm like, if this is what scuba diving is like, this sucks. I'm out. But we bailed on the second dive. It was a 2-tank dive operation. And we bailed on the second one, just kind of snorkeled with the rest of the kids that were snorkeling. And I was like, this may not be for me. The next year, my son graduated high school. We went back to the Bahamas. He wanted to try it. I'm like, all right, I'll try anything twice. We get into the water. This time was all the difference in the world when I had a caring, calm, cool, and collected dive master who took the time to do a good weight check with me. He was patient, kind, and caring. And Kai Wilkinson and I are still friends to this day. He's literally followed my dive journey from that day that we met. And, we're still friends today. But he literally took the time, did a great weight check with me, make sure I felt comfortable before we even descended, which made all the difference in the world. And by the end of that dive, I was hooked and the bug had bit me, and I have been running full force since. My son dives. My husband, before he passed, he was an avid diver, but my youngest, I can't get them interested whatsoever. They're like, "Nah," but younger, younger kids, maybe one day they'll change their mind, but up to this point, not so much. Um, I love diving. It is my happy place. The world has gotten to a place that it is so stressful, and sometimes things just get really hard. But being underwater is all the peace and all the beauty, and that's just my happy place. So I would rather be underwater than anywhere else.
That's awesome. So since
Yeah.
2017, obviously you picked up a cert or two. Where are you currently at, and who do you certified with?
So I have gone all the way through my professional and open circuit. I finished open water instructor through SSI. I have since also taken on RAID and IANTD. I
Hmm.
am just open water and some specialties. I am not an instructor trainer whatsoever. I have a long road to go before I ever hit that route. But, I am also a tech diver. I'm a KISS team junkie. I am, I'm addicted to the KISS rebreathers and, those machines just, when you take care of them, they take care of you. So I'm quite happy being a KISS CCR diver, and, just recently had worked on my cave certification, and now I'm getting ready to go do some cool things with, lots of people in the cave community.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, we love the Kiss rebreathers, and we love Kiss as well. I don't know if you saw it, but we did interview Mike Young, who is just,
Amazing.
oh my goodness. I jokingly call him, he is the Indiana Jones of diving.
I absolutely adore him and his wife, Sherry. I have not gotten to spend nearly enough time with them, but they are some of the coolest people on the planet.
He is amazing. Somebody asked me the other day here in Idaho, describe Mike Young. And I said, well, imagine a guy that pulled up at a 73 Ford pickup that just got out, was just picking potatoes all day, and then decided to tell you about the biggest, amazing adventure in Africa. They said, that's
Right?
an ad. I says, that's what it sounds like.
So the first time that I met Mike Young in person was the first Dive Talk meetup, not this summer, but the previous summer. And listening to him tell stories about every adventure and misadventure that he's had underwater, I literally told him sitting at a table at BurgerFi or one of those burger joints down in Lauderdale. And I said, Mike, I can't decide if I want you on every CCR dive that I'm on or none of them, because you constantly get into something, but you always get out. So it's like one of those give and take moments where you're like, this man knows his stuff. Boy, do I want to learn from him. And it's not just the diving portions, right? You want to learn the maintenance techniques and where his engineering brain got the idea for some of these things. And I mean, he's just an incredible human. He and his wife, they're pretty awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Terry, you've got the idea. You're building up Scuba Girls in Georgia, Scuba Girls International,
Hmm.
tech diving as well. So you started taking on the role as a mentor. Tell me about some one of your mentor experiences of mentoring younger divers.
It's interesting. It's not just been younger divers or women divers. It's been a combination of both. And the more that people find out about me, the more people reach out to me and are kind of like you, supportive of women and want to see women excel in the industry. So it's been an interesting mix of both men, women, and younger divers. I started Scuba Girls at Georgia years ago, long before my connection to Dive Talk. Before they even started, I started Scuba Girls at Georgia, and it was born out of missing that positive support for women in diving. There were plenty of other girl groups say on Facebook or out in social media, but even those groups had issues, in my opinion, with tearing each other down. You would see, let me talk about a plus size woman who was diving, talking about gear not fitting correctly, and even then, women were tearing them down.
Mhm.
I felt that that was just an unfortunate and unnecessary thing. So I started Scuba Girls of Georgia to not only support women in diving, but plus size women in diving. At the time, I was 300 pounds. So I was looking to step up and become that voice and support women, even though I, at the time, was, barely a master diver. I was ready to just step up and pull women together to support each other and lift each other up. So we had that positive voice for each other. And that then turned into Scuba Girls International and starting chapters in every state that I can start a chapter in. Now, the only chapter, or I want to, don't need to call it a chapter, but the only organization for Scuba Girls of that I did not start is Scuba Girls of Florida. But I know the gal who started Scuba Girls of Florida. Stella and I had an interesting meeting. I got up on the wrong boat. We were on a dive in the Keys at Thanksgiving, and we went for a night dive. And when we went down, we were the only boat there. And then when we came up, my husband had a computer problem. And the boat that we came up on was not ours. Didn't realize it wasn't ours until we saw the captain, who was like, "You okay?" And my husband's like, "Got a computer problem." Captain's like, "Get on board." So we ended up on the wrong boat, which was funny, but that's where we met Stella. And I absolutely adore her. But she started Scuba Girls of Florida, which is also a very supportive and vocal group for supporting women in diving. But that's how the birth of those two came about. And then, the more that I got vocal, the more that I started to do, the more attention that I would get from um, women in community asking questions. What about this? What about that? How do we find more support? How do we find manufacturers producing things with better fitting wetsuits for larger women or women of different sizes? And it just became a really strong network and supportive group for women wherever they needed it. And it's continuously growing. And I'm humbled and shocked. And Georgia being a landlocked state, we have about 600 members, and which is pretty incredible for a state that's landlocked where with nowhere to dive.
Absolutely. No, that's amazing. And it's not something I think of. Now, wait, so you look to be about 105 pounds soaking wet. You were 300 pounds?
I was 300 pounds when I started my dive journey, and
Oh my goodness. Congratulations.
thank you. What I will tell you is that when I started getting really interested in moving towards the professional path and open circuit, Woody Alpern of Dive Talk was one of my mentors, and he and I would go toe to toe sometimes, having that difficult conversation of, he is very much a science tells us you have to be healthy, you have to be fit, you have to be,
Sure.
ready for endurance, especially if you're going to rescue somebody else. Your health matters. I was very vocal of, if a doctor thinks that you are healthy enough to dive, anybody can dive. And I think that there is a happy medium. I think Woody's right. Obviously, I've taken my health into control. I think that there are places where Woody is absolutely correct, and there's proven data and science in being healthy, especially when you get into more technical diving. But I still will stand here and tell you that anyone who is healthy, by a doctor saying that you are fit to dive, diving is a great place to start. And if you get into the ocean and you're an open water certified diver and you are out there, who knows what happens that makes you feel connected and amazing in the water, that maybe that's step one for someone deciding that they need to take control of their health. But I still absolutely believe that diving can be done safely and being healthy no matter what size, as long as the doctor says that you are healthy enough to dive.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So by the way, throughout this, I neglected to mention that I reached out to some of my favorite women divers that are amazing in the industry, and I asked them, "What would you ask?" And so Jenny Branchflower owns a dive shop in Boise, Idaho, and she says, "What do you feel is being done daily to help introduce more women into diving?"
I think that some of the things that we're doing is women who are in diving, who are passionate about diving, we're the ones who are still out here with our pom poms, talking to people, posting about it on social media. Do I think that the industry manufacturers or product producers are doing enough to bring women into the industry? Mm, maybe not so much. I think it's great that you see pretty women in pictures and they're in cool dive gear, but it's, I think, almost like a grassroots, right?
Mhm.
Those who are out there in social media, the influencers, those who are talking about it, these are the people that are going to bring new faces, new people, new souls to diving. I don't think that scuba diving alone, like the local dive shops, I don't think that that's enough anymore. Advertising is great, but I honestly think that social media has become such a stronghold in society that it's those who are out there living it, breathing it, passionate about it, talking about it, sharing it. That's the people that are going to bring new people to the activity.
Absolutely. No, it was
Yeah.
interesting. My wife ordered her new dry suit. We wore out our last set of dry suits together, and as we ordered it and started looking at the dimensions, it was like, okay, it fits here, but wait a minute, I have hips, and
Mhm.
we ordered her a custom dry suit that wasn't off the rack, so it took account for her hips. But it's one of those things. I don't think a lot of people realize how that most dry suits are not just manufactured 1,000 at a time. They're cut off, and you can have them adjusted a little wider in the hips, a little shorter in the arms, a little longer in the arms. I have longer arms, so I usually get mine cut a little bit longer in the arm as well, so that it works out better for me. But I think that's a definitely thing that we need to start putting out there, that you can get gear that's closer to you. Because my next question always comes down to is, without compromising standards, are women's unique physical abilities and shapes being taken into account for skills? An example with like tech training, the average female may have trouble lifting doubles, manipulating the skills on side mount, or such as properly placing tanks on their harness without having to go to smaller tanks. Do you think we're taking that into account at all?
I think that women are getting creative and trying to, what's the word that I'm looking for? Mitigate, or we're looking for ways to modify things that will make it work for us.
Hmm.
We end up with what the industry has put out there. And I think it's a strong skill to be able to dive anything that you're given. So if you're given, something that may not necessarily work that well based on your body shape and size, being able to use it, even if it's not 100% perfect in trim and it maybe you have to adjust a little for buoyancy, I think that's still a great skill to have. But would I like to see it more custom? Absolutely. I think that there are plenty more things that the manufacturers can be doing to be custom, be able to accommodate women divers who have different shapes, different sizes, and even different abilities to be able to get us comfortable in the water and performing at our peak.
I agree with that. Some of the challenges we've seen, for example, when my wife got the new K2. I'm a K2 instructor and a side mount instructor, and we were adjusting it around, and I was putting a chest strap on for her because I like a chest strap. And she looked at me. She says, "Sweetheart, you cannot put it there." And I'm like, "But that's where it goes." And she says, "You can't put it there." And I says, "But it's supposed to go there." She says, "Honey, I have breasts."
It's not going to work.
Oh, so we had to tear it apart and do some modification to make it work, and we certainly did. We made it work perfectly, and it's she's an amazing side mount diver, and I've got beautiful photos of her in it. But I think we need to figure out a way to do that and take that into account more often.
I agree. I think being comfortable in the water where gear is not an impediment or a safety concern is definitely something that manufacturers and those who help other people get fit for gear need to take those things into consideration. And when manufacturers are putting things together, and you have spots on um, a BC, or even if you're using webbing, putting, D rings in places where things actually work for body shapes that have curves. These are things that need to be considered, and we do a lot of scrambling and let me figure out how I can adjust this, or what can I buy outside of what I already have to make this more comfortable. We do a lot to try to make gear fit a little bit better. And while it's definitely gotten better, there's still plenty of room for growth.
Oh, absolutely. My
Yeah.
favorite story is Nikki and I were going out to do our first tech dives. We were doing our as students, and the owner of we had to fly to Florida, so we didn't bring a backplate and wing for her. So the owner of the shop said, "Just use mine." He 280-pound guy to my 140-pound wife. And he's like, that'll be fine. And she's like, and she dove it. She did a great job. I was really impressed. She slung the twin 80s and did it. But I was like, never. We made the kind of the thing. I don't care how much extra we have to pay in airline fare. You're taking your own deck up BC that we worked out for you.
And that's smart because, I mean, yes, you're going to pay a little bit more, and hopefully nothing happens with the airline where your luggage gets lost. I always worry about that, especially, flying with my rebreather. I'm always paranoid that something's going to get broken, or
Oh
it's a
gosh.
headache. But, being comfortable leads to being safe. So it's important. And I think that we should put a bigger focus on that.
I agree with that. So, to continue down, Jenna Turner, another fantastic diver. She says, "What would you tell yourself as a baby diver?"
Keep trying. I ended up struggling for the longest time with not just trim and buoyancy, especially when I was 300 pounds. But we were in the pool doing, just weight pocket removal. And everybody kept telling me, be still, stop moving your legs. Not having those panic moments when the spotlight is on you is definitely something for people to think about. You're trying something that's new. You're doing a new skill.
Mhm.
This is super foreign to people who have never done it before. And a lot of us are, when we're doing the open water confined, have, real feelings of like, gosh, can I do this? What am I doing? What am I doing to myself? I literally had that conversation just about every every journey in the dive path. But I would tell myself not to give up. The skills, learning new things, being able to take a mask on and off without having that internal panic. The culmination of learning all those skills, once you get comfortable in the water, doing them repetitively, getting comfortable leads to such peace and such excitement that the journey is worth it. The journey is so worth it, especially when you get to your first, you're out in the middle of the ocean and you're on a reef somewhere, and the terrain looks so foreign, like you're on an alien planet. And to know that not so many people get to see that, like even though the industry has become it's really large for where we came from,
Mhm.
the number of people that actually get to see the underwater world is absolutely insane. The journey is worth it just to go see that underwater world.
That's amazing. So, one of my favorite women divers, Christina Zanato. I just love Christina.
I
Um,
just talked to her this morning.
did you really? She is amazing. Her Italianism.
I love her so much. She's one of my favorite people. She was actually my first interview for my channel.
Oh, really? She was
Yeah.
one of my first as well. She's just amazing and wonderful. She's her question was, what was the loudest doubt you heard in your head as you moved forward with your plans, and what did you do to quiet it down?
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that a
Why
great
does
one?
she have the great questions? So I will tell you, the first and biggest doubt that I ever had was when I had that first conversation with someone who I considered a mentor. I said I wanted to get serious about going the professional route, that I wanted to be an example and lead by example for other women, especially plus size women at that time. that I wanted to be and lead by example. And if I couldn't lead by example, I didn't want to lead. And I said I was getting really serious about wanting to go pro. And I was essentially told I was too old, too fat, and too female. And yeah, I was told I was too old, too fat, and too female. And it was a younger person's game, and that I should really reconsider. And I think at the time I was in such shock that I thought maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe this isn't for me. And I literally doubted not just getting going pro, I doubted diving from that moment on. And I literally had to have a conversation with myself. And it was, this is what I'm passionate about. I love seeing the excitement shared when I get excited and someone else gets excited, and we're both giddy like kids at Christmas about diving. This has been one of the most amazing things that has happened to me in my life, and I can't imagine not sharing that passion with somebody else. And when you're in the water and you're teaching a new student and that light bulb goes off, or they struggled like you did when you first did your first pool session, just taking the mask off and putting it back on. And then to get to a place where you can show your students that not only can you take the mask off, you can leave it off and you're fine. You don't need to see if you're just sitting there breathing. Are you breathing? You're okay. And then I can't imagine not helping someone discover their passion and them become as excited about diving and then share that with somebody else, paying it forward. I can't imagine not having that in my life. And I literally sat myself down and figured out, okay, so I look different than everybody else who's doing this in this community, in this small area. I look different than everybody else does. So what?
Mhm.
I'm a plus size woman and I want to share this with other women who are self doubting and feeling like diving is not for them, and that this is not something we can do because of our size. So what? Am I capable? Did my doctor sign off and say that I'm safe? I'm going to do this anyway. And then when it came to moving to the pro side, of course, as a pro, that we get the exam, the health exam, regardless of how many boxes we check yes on every year. We have to have that paperwork signed off every year by a physician, say that we are physically fit to not only teach, but be responsible for other bodies in the water.
Mhm.
And when it came to having that first initial exam to go pro, because of my size, this was my second big doubt. They threw the book at me. They went through every blood draw, they micro reviewed everything in my blood. They put me through a stress test on a heart monitor. They said, "You are a plus size woman. I think we need to check your heart calcium score. We need to check you for a PFO." If you name it, they did it because I was plus size, and they were not sure that I was ready for this or healthy enough for this. And then when it came out, I said, if what if I'm not healthy enough? What if I'm not okay? It'll all come out in the wash, and then I'll have my answer. The results came back, and my heart calcium score was 0, so I had no calcium, no heart blockages whatsoever. My good and bad cholesterol were all in line the way that they should be. I didn't have any issues with the heart stress test. I didn't have a PFO. So they had nothing when it came to signing off for me. They literally said, there is no reason you can't do this based on your health. And I was 300 pounds. The only thing they wanted me to do was lose weight. So for a person who had at least 100 pounds extra hanging around, I was pretty darn healthy. So I started, okay, if their doctor has absolutely nothing, then I'm going to go do this. I am going to go show other women and lead by example that we can, no matter what our size, be fit and physically capable of diving and teach others how to do this successfully.
That's wonderful. And it brings to mind what we talked about earlier, kind of off camera, was I go into the doctor's office and my doctor sits in his chair and we chat about different things that are happening in our community. He says, "I guess I should listen to your heart at some point." He says, "You got anything you want to report to me?" And I said, "No." And he says, "Okay," and he signs my slip and goes away. It's really like that. He looks at me and, "Okay, we're good to go. Middle-aged white guy, you look pretty good. You feel anything? You eating good?" "Yep, I eat good. I had a steak last night." You go in and they're like, "Oh no, oh no, oh
Stop the
no."
presses. It
Yeah,
was literally stop the presses. We need to throw the book at her.
it's just not right. We've got to find a way to be more equal and through things. I also like that earlier on. I just wanted to just point out. I love the positive attitude throughout the process, and I think the more we can have this positive attitude and stop looking for the negative and start looking for the positive through things, I like that. So I just wanted to point out that I really enjoyed your positiveness on that, and I'd like to talk about that a little later on as well.
Sure.
I, but so you do a lot of mentoring. How do you approach mentoring to support women who are just starting out in diving?
I think that if you are genuine in your passion for something, that sharing that with the next generation or the next person who wants to get involved because they see your passion. And when you're excited about something, that's contagious. And I think that when you go to share that with other people, they naturally want to gravitate towards you for that. I don't claim to be anything special. I don't claim to be, a complete rock star at this. I am human. I have gone through the trenches just like everybody else who's in this industry. We all have to go through the same level of education and training and certification to get to our goals and hit them, right? But when you are passionate and excited, people want to learn from you. And I'm okay with that. I'm not going to be perfect. I don't think anybody's going to be perfect. And I'm certainly not going to tell somebody that I'm the only person that they should learn from. I'm the authority. Absolutely not. Go learn from absolutely everybody you can get in front of. Everybody does things differently. You're going to learn tidbits and tricks from everybody who you learn from that might find that doing something this way is easier, doing something that way is easier, and the more you can learn, the better you're going to be. Now there are some people out there who are not the greatest to learn from, and that comes with learning how to vet who you're going to learn from. Find out who they've learned from, who their heroes are, or who their mentors are. Find out about them, do some research and finding out who you're learning from before you learn from them. And I think that that will go a long way in saving you some heartache.
Yeah.
Um, but when people come to you and say, as a professional, or even just someone in the industry who people pay attention to, it's honestly overwhelming at times when someone comes up to me, which has happened many occasion, direct messages on Facebook, or people coming up to me at a meetup, or people coming up to me at a function, like when we do gatherings for Scuba Girls of Georgia. I admire you and I would love to learn from you. Would you be open to that? I'm absolutely open to that, but I will absolutely tell you that I'm not perfect, and here's my credentials, and you decide whether or not you would be, if I'm a good fit for you. Because I'm not going to be perfect, and I have my own personal beliefs and thoughts about taking on new students or people who want me to mentor them. I'm absolutely happy to do it, but you have to decide if I'm a right fit for you. And I will show you my history and the people that I'm connected to and what my personal beliefs are for diving, and then, let them make a decision. Then, and if I'm not a right fit, it's okay. There are so many wonderful and amazing people in the industry that there are plenty of people that we can find that will be a good fit for somebody.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I agree completely. Positivity wins the day.
Absolutely. And there's no reason to be negative, right? I am not the end all be all. And if there is someone who is a better fit for someone who needs a mentor, by all means, it's only gonna help them, right? So, go make that better connection. Go find that mentor who has the time or the availability that matches your schedule, or if they're absolutely passionate about underwater photography, I am not your mentor. I am not your mentor. I am too ADD underwater to be teaching you and showing you the best way to capture that image in that artistic manner. If you're great with point and click, sure, I absolutely help you.
There you go.
If but if if you're looking to move towards, like, I have a bunch of open circuit gals who have seen me go through training and heard my stories about training on the tech side, and they're like, "Well, I wanna get started." And, I talked to them about my journey and what it took and the financial commitment and the time commitment, because good Lord knows tech is not tech is not cheap, and B, it is not quick, and there are no shortcuts when it comes to tech. So when people catch the bug, it's sometimes it's a very serious conversation, passionate but very serious, because once you move what I affectionately call the dark side, we do have cookies, ha ha ha, but it's a lot of commitment, and that has to be talked about too.
Absolutely. So, Terry, we all fail and succeed. Can you tell me about a time you just really failed and how'd you handle it?
Well, more recently, I went to Cave Adventures and ended up doing I know, right? I ended up doing I ended up doing, I spent some time with Medi, and we did spent time on working out some things on my rebreather. And then after that, I did side mount, and then I was gonna do side mount open circuit, intro to cave, and go that direction. Well, I'd been diving CCR for a year and hadn't really touched open circuit. And of course, the waters in the springs in Florida are absolutely frigid, not even close to warm. And not being a plus size diver anymore, I have no insulation and I freeze very quickly. So, not having my dry suit yet, it is on the way, but not having a dry suit yet at that time, I was in a 7 mil with layers underneath and layers underneath and layers underneath, trying to stay warm. So let's talk about that brand new configuration, layers upon layers upon layers to try to stay warm in those cold waters. Not having dove or dived open circuit and pretty close to a year plus, my trim and buoyancy on a brand new configuration that I had never dived before in all of those layers trying to stay warm was absolutely atrocious. It was like being a brand new CCR diver all over again. I felt very shattered, like my confidence was through the floor. Like I just felt like a complete and utter failure. Like I couldn't get it because the configuration was new, and I was like just bundled up like an Eskimo trying to stay warm underwater. And just that fine tuning of your breathing when you're on open circuit to try to maintain your buoyancy control, I was all over the place. Now, I passed side mount, didn't have any issues there. We spent a lot of time trying to work on my trim and buoyancy. And then we got to intro to cave, and there was flow. And there was flow. And it wasn't even that bad. The flow was not even that bad. And trying to do line work and trying to work out the issues I was having with trim and buoyancy and all of that new configuration and the layers that I was wearing for warmth, I was just no good, and they failed me, and rightfully so, because I was not able to really control myself while in an overhead environment. So it's not it was not only safe for me or anybody else with me, but it wasn't safe for the cave either. So it was a very humbling and a moment of defeat. And I think it was definitely a moment of personal growth also, because I realized that once you get to the tech side, nothing is easy and there are no shortcuts, and practice is absolutely important. But to have smooth sailing across every journey, you really don't learn anything. You don't learn anything about yourself or your resiliency or how to overcome things that become obstacles when the going gets tough. Do you quit, or are you going to go, okay, let me dust myself off and pick myself up and keep going? And I absolutely love the folks at Cave Adventurers. Ed and Stacy are my absolute favorite people. And Medi and I have had some interesting conversations and heartfelt conversations. And learning from them is just one of my favorite things. Those folks absolutely know their stuff. And I'm grateful that they failed me, because it made me want to work harder and do better to achieve more, and I'll never forget those lessons. So I'm eternally grateful. But yes, failure sometimes it hurts, but growth leads to growth.
I can tell you from the instructor side, it's not easy to fail somebody as well, because you see those hopes, you
Ugh.
remember where you were at with that. And so I tell my students, and I've got plenty of them, that I started an XR course where I had 11 people start and do the classroom work, and I let 4 of them in the water, and
Wow. Yeah.
I only let 3 of them progress to day 2. And at the end of it, I only passed 3 of the 11 that started. I'm still working with the others, and I'm happy to work with them. And I just explained to them, guys, you are not ready at this time. I'm not failing you. If you quit, you failed. But I'm not failing you. I'm just asking you to give yourself more time to do that. And so that's my thing is, hey, just let's get you some more time and some more experience in the water. I think you're a little low on
Exactly.
the experience level. Let's build that up a little bit before we move you to the big stuff and add a 3rd cylinder or 4th cylinder, whatever we're at.
Right, or how many we need, and being able to balance those changes and take it as it comes. Those are all very good lessons to learn, and being able to practice those and not be defeated when things get hard, because at the
Oh,
tech level, everything is hard.
they are. That's for sure. And that, like I said, my big thing is I hate. I remember where I was at. Our fun story when Nikki and I started tech diving. We were perfect. We hit the hurricane season every single time in Florida. Every 6 months, we'd get 1 or 2 dives in, and then the next day, all the boats were called because there was a hurricane. So it took us 2 years just to get through
Oh,
deco procedures
wow.
and advanced nitrox, because every 6 months when we go out to Florida, there was a hurricane. It was like
Oh.
clockwork. They said they were going to start not allowing us to come back to Florida.
Pick a different time of year.
Exactly. So I get it. I remember my enthusiasm. So in both sides, it's tough. I think most people don't realize it's tough for an instructor to tell somebody, not
You're
now.
not ready yet.
You're not
Yep.
ready. It's tough
Keep
on both.
practicing. It
So
is. It's absolutely humbling, but it is definitely something that I personally, I'm grateful, and I'm glad that it happened, and I'm shocked that didn't happen before then. But to have that happen, I think it's an important part of the growth path, even in diving. So I'm not saying I hope it happens to somebody somewhere everywhere along their dive journey, but it's definitely something that you need to experience and go, okay, I'm not ready, and be able to recognize that and not let it defeat you, because the doing the work, putting in the time, not like in the professional world where time and service. No, no, this is perfect. Practice makes perfect. You'll only get better by practicing it correctly. And if you're not ready now, you're going to continue to practice it incorrectly, and then you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, and you don't need that. Safety is important, and practice makes perfect.
I agree. I sort of agree with that. And practice makes better.
Better, yes.
I know. So I've lost track of my dives. In my logbook, I've got somewhere 2,000 somewhere dives, but I know I've got probably 3 or 4,000 dives at this point.
Nice.
And I tell my students, I says, every time I get in the pool with you guys, it's a buoyancy check and practice for me. And they're like, what?
Absolutely.
Every time I use it, I videotape myself often to make sure that I can still do the skills and stay within my 6 inches, up, down, left, right, forward, and back. If I can't do a mass drill within a 6-inch box, then it's time to practice again. I haven't failed myself in a while, but I have. I've really said, whoa, I need some more pool time. Usually it's in a configuration that I just don't, I won't dive very often, like twin sets. I dive twin sets begrudgingly.
And I think, we need to be able to have those humbling moments and keep ourselves in check. And we should never stop learning. I don't care if you're an instructor, trainer, or you know, a course director. It doesn't matter. We should never stop learning.
Absolutely. We've got to keep going. Well, Terri, I'm going to pause this here. We're going to take this to a second part and pick this conversation up. Guys, Terri Lynn is amazing. And if you haven't had a chance to go to her YouTube channel or to her Girls of Scuba in Georgia or her Girls of Scuba International, you should. Make sure you like that up. Make sure you're going to her YouTube page, watch her page, subscribe to it. Make sure you hit the like button because you don't want to miss any of the oceanic goodness that Terri Lynn has in store for you. Terri, thank you for your time today. We'll pick this up in part 2.